Once you have outlined your eye, so you've drawn your eye and you're outlined your eye, you are ready to add color. And here's the biggest thing you need to know about color. You will always use at least two colors at once. So when you're doing your value scale, I want you to pick at least two colors to layer with each other. And then when you're doing your, like the iris, when you're doing the skin tone, the eyebrow, all of those, you will always pick at least two colors to use at once because it'll make it look more interesting and and it'll work better. So if I'm going to do my value scale on this one, the true color is in the middle, the tints are on this side, the shades are on this side. So this would be colors plus black, the color plus black. This has no black or white added, just the true color, and this is the colors, these are the colors plus white. If I'm starting, I would suggest starting with your true color, so that just the plain color. I'm going to do blue and green layered together. So you can always add more. I would suggest starting light, like don't press super hard with your crayon right away. So I have a layer of green, then I'm going to pick up my blue crayon and add a layer of blue like this. It's okay to be sort of gestural with the crayons, so that means it's okay to not have completely even perfect layers, but it is not okay to be super scribbly and messy, so you need to get a feel for how that works. I think I'd like to add maybe a little bit more green again. We want vibrant colors, we don't want faded looking kind of washed out color. So I'm filling this in so I can really see this true color well, this blue-green tone well. So I'll do something about like that. Then these three over here are all the color plus black. Black is a really dark color, so a little bit goes a long way. What I would recommend if I'm doing this side, I might start with my darkest one first, so I know the full range of my value scale. You can always add more. So again, I would emphasize to start light, and then you can always add more. I'll pick up my black crayon. A little bit of black goes a long way, but I also know this is my very darkest value. So it's okay for this one to get pretty dark. So I'm going to fill that in. It will not be completely black, right? The color is still there. I'm coming back with my green and layering over the top of it. And then I'm coloring over it again with the blue. I'm being careful of the edges. I am being neat and careful. And then I might think, that's pretty good, but I bet I could make it even more black. I know this is my very darkest one. So I'm going to come back over with my black crayon and make it even darker. So I can tell it's not completely black. I can see color coming through, but this is the darkest I can bring it. Then here, same thing. I'm going to start with the lighter colors first. I'm going to layer blue and green. I'm going to gradually layer in and blend in black so that it's a little bit lighter, and then get up to the full color. So you can see on this one, this I did with blue violet, but each one looks different from the one before it or after it. So each step is a different value, okay? Then on this side, I'm working with my tints, which is colors plus white. So when you are making a tint, white is super, super light. So I would probably start with white and just put white in all of these little squares first, and then gradually layer colors over the top. White is so light that it will not take much of any color that you use to cover it up. So for this very lightest one, I would probably just add a teeny tiny bit of green and a teeny tiny bit of blue, and then I would come back in with white and blend it and layer it over the top again. So now you know this is your absolute lightest value over here, your lightest tint. Then for the next one, same idea. I already have white on here. I'm going to go a little bit darker with my green. And I'm going to go a little bit darker with my blue so that it looks darker than that very light one that I just did. So again, each one should look different than the one before it. So this one now should look slightly darker. This should look slightly darker. Back to the true color. Remember, no black or white added with the true color. After you are done doing the value scale, it's time to do your actual eyeball, or your actual eye in the surrounding area. So here's my finished example. And again, you will always use a minimum of 2 colors. So you will choose at least 2. So for my skin tone, I chose to do kind of a realistic version of my own skin tone. I chose these 2 colors. Plus, I also added white because I do want you to work with value as you're practicing the skin tone as well. For my eyebrows, I use, I think, this color and this color, and also some black to bring out some of the definition of pieces of my eyebrow. Where's my black? Here it is. So again, you're always working with at least 2 colors. You don't have to be realistic in your skin tone. For this one that I've been working on, I chose a blue-violet color. You don't have to be realistic with your eye color. This is my eye color, but you can come up with whatever color you want, but you have to use at least 2 colors. When you are working on coloring in your iris, think about value. Think about the fact that your eye is rounded, and try to make that happen. So if I want to do, maybe I want to do my own eye. So I have eyes that look kind of like this. They're hazel, which is brown and green. Here's what I might do. I might start with brown, maybe toward the middle. And you'll notice if you look in detail at someone's eyes, there's lots of little flecks of color, and there's a ton of detail going on. So again, you're going to layer and build up areas so that it looks like a nice rich color in the end. Start light, you can always add more. So I'm going to do something sort of like this. Now I think that green is a little bit too vibrant. I want it to be a little bit more muted. I want it in there for my hazel eyes, but I want it to be a little bit more muted. So I'm going to go back over this with more brown so that green starts to be underneath. You can show flecks of color. Sometimes people like to have like lines that show the detail of an eye. So like here's an example of one where you can see some detail that this person added with lines. That's an option for you as well. I'm going to come back in too with my black crayon and add a little bit of value along the outside edge. If you look at your own eye, there is kind of a black or almost gray outer ring to your eye. So that's something you can do to neutralize the color or to add a little bit more value. Maybe now I decide I do want to bring some more green back out into my eye, so I'll add a little bit more green. This is just practice. So you are just going to practice what's your best method for drawing an eye. Maybe I want to bring back more lines in here, so I'm going to take my black crayon, maybe the sharper edge, and add a few more lines to show detail that way. So those are some options for doing the color of your eye. Your eye is rounded, so the white part of your eye is rounded. To add that value, to make it look a little more realistic, you should try adding just a teeny tiny bit of black. So you can see there I just added a teeny tiny bit of black, and then you can take a white and blend that out a little bit, and just that tiny detail that I added is going to make my eye look a little bit rounder and a little bit more realistic. Your tear duct over here, you can use, usually those are kind of a pinkish color, so you can use pink to fill that part in if you want. That's another option to make your eye look more realistic. Once you're done with your eye, you're going to think about your skin tone. You can use a realistic skin tone, like I did in this. This is kind of what I would imagine my own skin tone to look like. You can do something random. This person chose purple. I chose blue and green in this one. Or I'm sorry, blue and violet. So you can do what you want. I'm going to do blue and violet in this one just to show you. I want you to experiment with value here. So as I'm working with this, I might start under my eye. I would suggest having darker values closer to your eye and lighter values further away from your eye. So I'm just going to kind of rough in some of the color. Again, I'm being gestural with my crayon, but that doesn't mean I'm scribbling and being messy. I'm still being intentional with how and where I'm putting the color down. So I'm going to go all the way around the outside of my eye. My goal is to make it darker as it's toward my eye, and then lighter as I get further away from my eye. So maybe something kind of like that. And then I might pick up white and add that as well to blend those layers together and to continue to have that value change from dark to white. Something kind of like that. And it's a work in progress. The goal is to continue layering colors until it looks full and rich and like a nice application of color. I do want you to go all the way up to your eyebrow, so it might get, your value might get a little bit darker again up by your eyebrow. When you actually work on your final, you will obviously look at the value of your own photograph. But for this, just kind of experiment. I want it to be a little bit lighter in the middle, and then I can keep going back and forth and layering color until I get more of a finished effect like this one. So I still have some work to do, but you get the beginning stages. This one is more blended and accurate. And then when you get to your eyebrow, you can be realistic with the color. You can do something different with the color. It's up to you. But again, you need at least 2 colors. So maybe I will start with this brown color. And your eyebrows have a lot of texture. There's a lot of texture going on in an eyebrow. So again, you can use your crayon to show that texture. I might just sort of fill it in with this brown at first. Then maybe I want a little bit of this brown, so I'm choosing 2 different colors. Kind of like this. And then maybe I want to show more of that texture using a sharper edge of this black crayon. So I'm using this nice sharp edge to show individual textures. So I might do something like this, and then you can actually look at your own eyebrows and the direction in which, you know, all of the texture goes. But I'm going to maybe do something kind of like this to show that eyebrow type texture. Then I might think, okay, that's pretty good, but I still want it to be a richer color. So maybe I'll come back in with my first color again and do another layer. I'm trying to be as careful as I can around the edges. This is just practice, but you do want to do your best. So something kind of like that is what I might end up with. Now I still have more work to do on this skin tone. I'd like you to take it up above the eyebrow. So in the end, it looks more something like this with whatever color you have chosen. But hopefully that gives you at least an idea to get you started.